Well, hello and welcome to Faith, Philosophy and Life with me, Mr. Shelton. Behind me is an image of a nuclear explosion. Some of you may well be aware that only 2 atomic bombs have actually ever been used in the world, and that was by the Americans at the end of World War II, where they dropped 2 bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Subsequently to that, which did end the Second World War, there has been a huge outcry about nuclear weapons around the world, with the campaign for nuclear disarmament, CND, which you may well have seen with that circular badge that they have with the logo within it. However, there is so much now in warfare which is more than just nuclear bombs. And yes, countries have nuclear bombs, we are going to be thinking about that today. But we're also going to think about some of the other methods that are used in war by some countries, which are again widely discredited. And we're going to be thinking about why countries are against those and why Christians would be against some of those as well. So hard topics today, however that is part of our topic where we've been thinking about the just war theory last time as well. I'm going to say a prayer, however. We've got lots of things to cover today, maybe not quite as much as last time, you're pleased to know. So go and grab a pen and paper because now it's our cheesy intro music. Okay, so our title today is what are the issues around weapons of mass destruction? I've abbreviated to WMD, which you can do in your notes, but in your exam answers, please make sure you either write weapons of mass destruction and then put WMD in brackets, or only write weapons of mass destruction. Yes, that will use a lot of ink, but I'm sure you'll get over it once your hand aches after writing for almost 3 hours. So we're going to explore why Christians disagree with weapons of mass destruction. It's going to be good if we can describe the main issues surrounding WMD. Great if you can explain what Christians teach about WMD, and even better if you can link the issues surrounding WMD to the just war theory. So we're going to look at some disasters, we're going to look at nuclear weapons, chemical and biological weapons, and the just war theory as well. I've got loads of clips to throw in as well today. So let's just cast your mind back. This is what we were looking at last time with the just war theory. And I want you to think about which of these would nuclear warfare not fit in? Which of these would nuclear warfare not fit in? Okay, a lot of you then hopefully have found bullet point 5. The war should be fought with proportionality, with just enough force to achieve victory and only against legitimate targets, i.e. civilians should be protected. And that is one thing that the nuclear bombs spectacularly do not. They are not proportional. However, they are effective, or were at the end of the Second World War arguably. However, they certainly didn't protect civilians. They didn't protect people that were not in the army, because they killed a lot of people that actually were just normal people like you and I. Then last time as well, we looked at the just war theory and we linked it in with jus ad bellum and jus in bello. So again, that's to give you some idea about. Now again, look at the discriminatory in the jus in bello and the proportionality in jus ad bellum. All of those are things that are essential when it comes to nuclear warfare, which again, it doesn't. So what we're going to do today is we're going to be really focusing on those sort of 2 with the things that we're looking at with WMD. We've got lots of clips to throw in as well as we go. There will be a number of media clips in today's lesson, all of which are not for the faint of heart. So I think it's important that you watch them. However, if you are someone who might be a little bit concerned about some of the things that you're going to say, there is my health warning for it. So to start off with, is I'd like you to do a little mind map for me on what are different forms of mass killings. Okay, that's a dark way to start the session today, but what are different forms of mass killings? And see if you can come up with a few now. Pause me as usual. Okay, so I'm presuming then you've got things like nuclear weapons down there, chemical and biological weapons. Maybe you've got genocide. Maybe you've got massacres. Maybe you've got things like gas, where you can kill, like in the Holocaust, for example, gas chambers. So all of those, and I'm sure you've come up with others as well, are different forms of mass killings. I'm going to show you some images, and I'd like you to, in your mind, come up with things about what you think has caused these. Let me show you these now. So be thinking, what has caused these images? Okay, from this point on, if you've got an idea, this will be the bit of a giveaway, because these are now some quite famous photos I've got to show you. Okay, I wonder if you worked out what that was. They were all images from Chernobyl. Okay, if you don't know anything about Chernobyl, Chernobyl is an area which was destroyed by an accidental nuclear reactor explosion while during the USSR, with the old Russian Federation. It was something that did cause a lot of damage and has affected the environment for years. But I tell you, if you've ever seen images of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, where the Americans dropped an atomic and nuclear bomb on those two cities, you will see the devastation is even worse than what we've just seen there. And the devastation in Chernobyl is still there today. There are still areas of no-go areas. There are still things within generations of people which are affected because of Chernobyl and the effect that happened there in terms of people's reproduction and illnesses, cancer, and the whole land just being still damaged. And that's nearly 30-40 years on. So you can see then that if that's what one nuclear reactor is, which was an accident, can you imagine what dropping two nuclear bombs, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, would do to a country deliberately? So today then, we've started to think a little bit about nuclear weapons. That's what we're going to now think about. So I've got a little clip to show you from Hiroshima and Nagasaki actually, and I'd like you to identify what the main arguments that come from this.
Of August 6th, Japanese time, the first atomic bomb hit an enemy target.
From 29,000 feet, the Hiroshima explosion looked like a giant candy floss. But down below there were real people, tens of thousands of them, burning alive.
What happened to you when the bomb exploded?
I was surrounded by
8-year-old Keiko Ogura saw them with her own eyes. Horrors she can never forget. Outside her house, the survivors began to gather, their faces burned and swollen. They begged for water.
Their skin was peeling off and hanging. And at first, I saw some, and I thought they were and holding something or the rag or something, but that was really skin.
Here's a building that was actually knocked sideways.
US news reports at the time described only the physical damage to the city. No mention was made of the thousands dying from burns and radiation. This colour footage of victims taken in 1946 was classified until the 1980s. When later she went to the United States, Keiko found Americans knew little of the horrors that she'd witnessed.
I was told by American citizens, congratulations, you could come here thanks to the bombing, they said. Without the bombing, you have to do harakiri, kill yourself. It is very awful excuse. Because of that, you save your life, and then we drop the bomb. We should not use excuse, such kind of excuse.
When that cigar-shaped bomb exploded 500 meters up above this spot, it killed between 100 and 150,000 people. The conventional wisdom outside Japan is that the destruction of this city was a necessary evil that brought an abrupt end to the war. But is it now time for the outside world, and particularly America, to rethink that conclusion?
But this is so close to the
Today, this group of students from Princeton University is for the first time coming face to face with a Hiroshima survivor and the horrors she witnessed.
We're taught this narrative that, this great scientific instrument was dropped on Hiroshima, there was a flash and the war ended. But it's just been so surreal and I think in a lot of ways tragic to see that nightmare is being relived by people kind of every day and by the city every single day. So that really, really moved me, and I'm still grappling with that.
Today I was really taken aback, especially, just the very first image in the museum is the model of the people whose, skin is dripping off, and I've never seen anything like that. And for me, it was really hard to see, honestly, being an American and knowing that this is something that happened.
No sitting US president has ever visited Hiroshima or Nagasaki, and President Obama will not be here on Thursday. In World War II, so much horror was committed by all sides, not least Japan. But it's not the only country that has trouble facing its own World War II history. Rupert Wingfield-Hayes, BBC News, in Hiroshima.
Okay, so here is some really, I think, quite scary statistics, but you can understand the logic for them, with regards to nuclear weapons from around the world. Russia has the most, at 6,800. These are declared nuclear weapons due to nuclear treaties. USA, 6,600. The UK has 215. As you can see, there are not a huge amount of countries that have them, and there are lots of reasons for that. Now, the UK is quite unique in its way. It has 3 Vanguard nuclear-powered submarines. And on these Vanguard nuclear submarines are our Trident weapons system. Now, Trident is our nuclear weapons, or at least some of them anyway. And 2 of these submarines at any time are anywhere around the world. This is our deterrent against nuclear warfare. Now, it has been said that Britain would only ever launch nuclear weapons in response to an attack on herself or her allies. She would never be the one that actually starts off a nuclear war. On each of these submarines is a letter which is signed by the Prime Minister at the time, which declares whether, in the event of a nuclear strike, if they would authorise retaliatory nuclear bombs to be struck. That letter is never opened unless there was ever an event of nuclear warfare. And it's really shocking to think that we have that capability where we could end an entire country or partake with an idea of nuclear warfare. Whether you agree with nuclear warfare or not, that is what it is, and that is the process that we've got to secure and to defend our nation. Now, really important, as I said earlier, we've got 3 of them, and 2 of them are in nations. Where's the other one? Well, it's always in dock. It's always being repaired. So they're on a rotation basis. So that's just a little bit about Britain's nuclear response. Whether it's ever right to use them or not is a hugely difficult decision, because there's arguments obviously for and against them, and you need to be aware of some of those arguments for and against them. So you need to be able to think about the idea that there are lots of people that get killed, but you could also think about the idea that it's a massive deterrent to try and stop a greater evil from ever happening, because if we've got them, people won't necessarily want to fire them at us or anywhere else in the world, because we could strike back at a moment's notice. Now, it does cost an absolute fortune to renew Trident. So what we're going to do is we'll come back to what some of the churches teach about that later. Okay, but what we're now going to do is we're going to go on to think about chemical and biological weapons. Now, I make it really clear in the clips that I'm going to show you today, there are some shocking images. So, chemical weapons, then here's some stats for you. Cause injury, incapacitation or death. The First World War was where chemical weapons were widely used while people were in the trenches. Things like mustard gas, lung damage. It affected 85% of 100,000 deaths in World War I, they think, was caused by chemical weapons. So obviously chemical weapons don't discriminate, they're not proportionate, but they do only affect a smallish area. Sarin then is 16 times more powerful than cyanide. Cyanide is an extremely powerful gas. Now, not only is sarin 16 times more powerful than cyanide, XV gas, which is another chemical weapon, is 100 times more deadly than this. And if it was to be used, human and animal life would be over. Simple as that. So you can imagine that that is very, very, very scary. So what I'm going to do is I've got a little clip to show you now. As I said before, there are some shocking images on this. So I'd like you to watch this, make a few notes as well, but if you're squeamish, feel free to hide behind your hands.
حادث مالكلور صار يوم الخميس، كان يوم 20 بالشهر بالمناطق المحررة اللي تنحرر من نص المنطقة. الطيارة ضغطت يمكن سيارة ما الدواعش بيها هاونات بتضغط على الشيء. الطيارة قامت الهاونات وقعت على العالم هم تأذت بالهاونات، وواحد رجال من المنطقة مات، وهم بنفس الوقت العالم اختنقت من الغيحة. الغاز مالتهم بينه كلور وبينه توم، بينه مواد يعني هاك بتخنق، والإنسان يصير عنده حساسية وخشمه يغم ويصير عنده حب من الغيحة مالته، فد مرة يعني تخنق.
كان في العثور على مختبرات صغيرة أو مواد أولية لصناعة مثل هذه المواد، وفي الغالب يستخدمون صواريخ غير موجهة، لأن الهدف الأساسي هو إلحاق ضرر بالناس أو بالقوات.
دحام عدنان أحمد.
Okay, so we're going to look at biological weapons as well. So a biological weapon is something that's been engineered normally on a bacteria or virus, and the idea is that it delivers plagues, it delivers massive issues around the world. They're very hard to stop, bioweapons. So they quite often would be genetically engineered into insects to deliver plagues. And they're a really creative delivery. They're not just sort of dropped in grenades and things like that. The whole point of biological weapons is the biology that is delivering that. So I found this on YouTube. I'm going to play it to you now. Again, some shocking things on this. This is the top 10 bioweapons. How you come up with the top 10 on this, I'm not entirely sure. But these are 10 biological weapons which have been or are thought to have been created, and the effects that they have. So again, hide behind your hand if you need to, but let's watch that and get some notes down. Okay, so what we've done then so far, we said it'd be good if we could describe the main issues surrounding weapons of mass destruction, or we've got some ideas around that. Think about what Christians teach about them. I'm just going to spend a few moments on that in a few minutes, and to think about some of the issues with that, linking it into the just war theory. So coming back to the just war theory, I'd like you just to focus on the two that I've identified there. Make sure you've got a note in your book that are chemical and biological weapons, nuclear weapons, are they proportionate and discriminate? No, they're really not. And there be a big issue for why Christians would disagree with nuclear and chemical and biological weapons. So just make a note of that, because that's the one reason why they say they just shouldn't happen. Okay, so lastly then, this is sort of the Christian teaching which we've kind of tinkered with around the edges. Biological and chemical weapons can never be used. Okay, that's general church teaching no matter what denomination. They could never lead to a just war. Most Christians think that they are in fact intrinsically evil. Pope Francis himself said they should be abolished, and the Church of England says that trident shouldn't be renewed, and their case is unthinkable. Okay, the use of those is unthinkable. Okay, so I've got one more clip to show you before moving on to our last activity. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to watch this. And this is taken from a really old film called War Games. It's a really good way of showing you why nuclear warfare, another reason why nuclear warfare may not be successful in terms of what it sets out to do. So just watch this, then come back to me, and we've got one final thing to do.
Put the list back up.
No, we already tried that.
Put it up.
Yes, put it up.
It's not on the list.
What's not on the list?
Go ahead.
It's got to be in there somewhere.
Tick, tack, toe.
You're in. Order to disarm the missiles.
No, no.
Five numbers. It's got half the code.
One?
Put X in the center square.
No.
Six up.
There's no way you can win that game.
I know that. It doesn't. It hasn't learned. Is there any way to make it play itself?
Yes, number of players 0.
Seven.
Come on. Learn, goddammit.
Eight.
Must be caught in the loop, storing more and more power from the rest of the system.
Nine numbers. 10. It's got the code. It's going to launch.
Get me a log status report. Major Dave, get me the president.
Yes, sir.
How you doing, Colonel?
Sir, all landlines out of the mountain. They're dead. I'm trying to break through on satellites.
Okay.
It's learning.
Greetings, Professor Falcon.
Hello. Joshua?
Strange game. The only winning move is not to play. How about a nice game of chess?
Colonel Conley, take us to DEFCON 5.
Yes, sir.
Brilliant. Okay, so the last thing I'd like you to do is to get your black AQA books if you've got them. They're the one by John Fryer. And I'd like you to go to page 322. 322. And there's a series of questions on that I would like you to work through. And these are sort of conclusion-y type questions for what we've studied today. So page 322 of the John Fryer books. That's the black AQA books. Get onto those. And that will end our session for today with you working on that. So thanks very much for your time. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe. Wash hands. God bless. And I'll see you next time for hopefully a slightly happier topic.